Ladies and gentlemen, Iran has done it. It has made Trump be a bit honest. After months of saying that he's negotiating with Iran, they're begging me for a deal is imminent. How many times have they said that? Finally, on Truth Social, he comes out and says this. This is yesterday. There are no talks or conversations going on or scheduled with the Islamic Republic of Iran. The naval blockade remains in full force and effect. The Hormuz Strait is open. Well, that's a lie. And operating. All water mines have been removed or detonated. Thank you for attention to this matter. So he finally admits there's no talks or conversations, which is what Iran has been saying for months. I guess the only lie is that the Hormuz Strait is open when every day Iran is hitting a tanker. So it's not really open. The truth is that the Iranians have been very consistent. They have been saying that we are not negotiating with Trump. Maybe they're sending some messages to Pakistan, then Pakistan sends some messages to the US and vice versa, but there's no negotiation. There's no, okay, let's see how we can meet in the middle. Once Trump broke the MOU by creating that southern corridor in the Strait of Hormuz to remove Iran's leverage of controlling the Strait of Hormuz, the MOU broke down. And now Iran is very clear on what it wants so that it opens the Strait of Hormuz. Number one, unfreezing of their assets. Number two, unsanctioning of their oil. Number three, removing the US blockade, the naval blockade. And number four, ending all hostilities in the region, which includes now Gaza and which included before Lebanon and Yemen. And so all Trump can do now is either start barking loudly to say, we're going to destroy them, as he has done so many times. No one believes him anymore. And that's the thing. He's just talking. He's just talking to himself. Even Trump supporters that wanted Trump to bomb, Iran now just like, here you go. He's talking again. No action. And for me, that's a good thing because him taking action now to do something different that they haven't done before would be attacking the infrastructure of Iran, the oil facilities, the power plants, the bridges. And that would result in the same retaliation by Iran, attacking power plants and bridges and oil facilities in the whole region, which would cause absolute destruction of the region and the global economy. This is a very, very bad thing to happen if it did happen. So I'm glad he's not taking action. The problem is he's out of options here. He has no potential action that will lead to this ending because he's incapable of making the concessions to Iran because it looks really bad. The funny thing is he keeps on making fun of Obama for giving the Iranians that $2 billion of their own cash to the Iranians that was frozen by the US, so it got unfrozen. And now he has to give at least $24 billion. So how is he going to be able to sell that? And he thinks that just keeping the pressure on Iran, this economic pressure of the naval blockade, which, by the way, still Iranian ships are passing through that naval blockade. Of course, the sanctions, which are having an economic effect on Iran. But Iran has been under sanctions for 47 years. What's another couple of months going to do? That's going to flip the whole country into moving in a different direction when for 47 years it hasn't worked. The only difference is now they are being threatened. Their whole civilization, the Iranian civilization, is being threatened by Trump. He has explicitly said that. And now they have the upper hand because they've removed a lot of the U.S. assets from the region. They've pushed them all the way to Jordan and Israel, so it's much harder for the U.S. to carry out strikes. The fact is that a lot of their missile cities that produce missiles are underground, that the U.S. seem to unable to penetrate. And so while there is this kind of ceasefire, if you call it that, the Iranians are producing missiles a lot faster than what the U.S. produces. One, the U.S. doesn't even have the rare earth minerals, which come from China. 95% of it come from China, the processing of those rare earth minerals. The U.S. doesn't have access to that much rare earth minerals because there's export controls by China on the export of those rare earth minerals, which are needed in missile production. While Iran, who's Iran's allies? China, Russia. Do you think they have export controls on the export of rare earth minerals to Iran? And as time passes, Iran is becoming better at targeting and hitting their targets. And the U.S. was very surprised by how quick they're able to, one, recognize changes in the U.S. bases and target those U.S. bases, which led to the U.S. soldiers being killed in Jordan. The targeting was very specific. And at the same time, Iran is improving their ability to control what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. As you can see over here, we can see the ships kind of trying to enter, the Strait of Hormuz, and then we can see them being seized by the IRGC, which they were announced by the IRGC that they are seizing this because they didn't approve it, and then they take it to Iran, or some ships that try to pass through the southern corridor, which was created by the US, and then the IRGC comes and says, you're not going through here, and then they have to go back. And we see this time and time and time again. Now, it's not saying that some ships are passing through. Every day we know that Iran has been hitting at least one ship in the southern corridor because they're saying that the southern corridor is not the approved corridor. We need to ensure what is going into the Gulf areas, into the Strait of Hormuz. One, because is it going to be used to attack Iran? Don't forget, a lot of the US bases are in the Gulf countries. But two, we're going to apply some kind of service fee to recover the cost of damages that the US has incurred on us through this war. And number three, we need to have some leverage to ensure that the US meets the conditions of the MOU, or what becomes of the MOU, i.e. the unsanctioning of their oil, the unfreezing of their assets, the end of the war, because the only thing that the US cares about is getting oil to pass through the Strait of Hormuz to ensure there is no oil shortages that will impact not just the US economy, but the global economy. Just before the midterm elections, what are people, when they vote, what are they going to be thinking about? Well, what is the price of the goods that I'm paying, the services that I'm paying for? Have they increased? Is it more expensive now to drive, to eat? As inflation goes up, which is driven by oil prices and food prices, that's going to be very bad for Trump. And don't forget, we haven't really seen the food price increases that is going to come, because fertilizer is made from oil. It's a derivative of oil, and a lot of it comes from the Middle East. About 25% of fertilizers traded it goes through the Strait of Hormuz. Now that's been blocked for how many months now? And so the crops that we're supposed to see at the end of the year aren't going to be as much as we had in previous years, because they have been able to apply the fertilizers during March, during April, when it's crop season. So the situation is only going to get worse. And the only reason why we are not seeing any oil shortages is because Trump is using their strategic petroleum reserve, the oil inventory that they have, to be released as much as possible to ensure oil prices are low and there's no oil shortages. But that's going to be depleted. There's only a finite amount of how much oil you have in your inventories that you could use. And then once that goes below a certain number, you can't use anymore. You can't use that as a buffer. It's a temporary buffer. And it's expected that that buffer is going to be depleted in the next 4 weeks. So Trump is in big trouble. He thinks that he can make Iran concede on opening the Strait of Hormuz before the US has the oil shock from not having enough oil in its inventories, and prices going up extremely high in the US and in the world, causing at least a recession, a global recession. Well, that's not going to happen. Iran is not going to concede to the US when it has endured 47 years of threats and sanctions from the US. That's insane, especially after their country being directly attacked by the US. When a country attacks you, when a foreign country attacks you, you rally around the flag. You all come together to fight this foreign threat. That's what I would expect to happen in the US and in any other country. Now, the problem is that because Trump is cornered and he doesn't know what to do, because there's no options. He really misjudged this war. He thought it was going to be very quick. And now, so because he thought it was going to be quick, they didn't really plan for option B or option C or option D. If this happens, what do we do? Their plan was so bad that they didn't realize they're going to finish off their ammunition and their interceptors, which is the reason why the US can't really do much in terms of damage on Iran, because they don't have any ammunition. The insanity of it is just crazy. So because he's out of options, we're getting reports such as this. This is former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. They are discussing using nuclear weapons on Iran in strategy meetings. Yes, you read that correctly. It's real. I'm not speculating. I know. And it's pure evil. Trump promised no more foreign wars, but may actually be the one who delivers a nuclear holocaust that would likely drag the entire world into major conflict, economic depression, and mass human suffering. we've never seen in our lifetimes and maybe throughout history. People need to speak out and boldly stop this insanity. Now, she kind of works right now with Joe Kent, who is part of the intelligence community. He's the famous one that resigned. And so it seems like they have contacts in the intelligence or part of the government that's telling them, nuclear weapons is being discussed. And it seems like Trump, this is not the first time he does it. There were reports last time he did go to one of the generals to say that, hey, we have nuclear weapons. Why are we not using them? And the general had to say, we're not even discussing this. At the end of the day, if Trump wants to use nuclear, there's no one to stop him. And he is not logical or rational. The fact that he started this war, the fact that he keeps on almost being bipolar of, hey, we are making a deal, we're not making a deal, we're going to destroy you, we're not going to destroy you. It's just, back and forth, making stuff up. So he's not really clearly there with it. The hope is that the fact that people are releasing this, it kind of indicates that there is a lot of opposition to the use of nuclear weapons because of the fact that once you use a nuclear weapon and the U.S. is not really threatened, this is a war of choice that was carried out by Trump, that will lead to all countries getting nuclear weapons as much as they can, if they can. And two, Iran will likely get nuclear weapons. If they need any more evidence that they need nuclear weapons, this would be it. So it would be a nuclear race in a way that we've never seen before. And God knows what the retaliation to that would be. But if you're talking about nuclear weapons, that just shows how desperate you are, that you have no other option. So you're thinking of, hey, let me just use this weapon, the mother of all destruction weapons. And that just also shows his mindset of how much of a aggressive, bully, mafia mentality he has. Hey, let's just use the best thing that we have and cause the maximum damage to ensure they kneel without thinking about the consequences of what that would result in terms of other countries retaliating, in terms of other countries now realizing they need a nuclear weapon. Because if Iran had a nuclear weapon right now, this war wouldn't have happened. And of course, no country would attack it with a nuclear weapon. So if there's a case, the strongest case for Iran to get a nuclear weapon is for the U.S. to, one, threaten the use of nuclear, but also, attack with a nuclear weapon. That would be the biggest support for Iran developing nuclear weapons. And let's be clear, Iran can easily develop a nuclear weapon. They have the technical ability, but also they have all the right allies. China, Russia, North Korea, Pakistan. These are their greatest allies, and they all have nuclear weapons. So it could easily be shared if that's necessary. So this is where we are today. And it seems like Iran is being very clear that, hey, these are our conditions. You need to remove the naval blockade. You need to unsanction our oil. You need to unfreeze our assets. You need to actually pay reparations. And we will apply a service fee to the Strait of Hormuz. And we need to end all the wars. Now, the thing that I think Iran can negotiate on slightly is the reparations. Because really, if they can apply a service fee, if they control the Hormuz, and also if they have their sanctioned assets, frozen assets unfrozen, and their oil unsanctioned, they're going to really have a lot of money to repair all the damage that the U.S. Has done. But other than that, they're not going to open the Strait of Hormuz. And they're going to ensure that there is enough pressure on the U.S. for the U.S. to learn that they should never, ever, ever do this again. This is the whole, also very weird concept I hear from people to say, hey, they need to ensure that Trump has to save face so that he can get out of this. It's like, well, what's the point if he can save face and there isn't really a cost? Why wouldn't he just restart the war later on? If there is no cost, if there's no damage, he could just restart the war because there wouldn't be any lesson learned over here. In the same way that he carried out those strikes last year and there was no real cost imposed on the U.S., so they just restarted the war this year. That's the whole point. They need to have a permanent, well, not permanent, but a material cost so that the U.S. and their allies never think about doing this again. It's simple as that. And if the naval blockade gets to a level where it's extremely tough on the economy of Iran, well, why would Iran not just break the blockade, through kinetic means? If it's really, really bad for Iran, they're not going to just wait for the economy just to be destroyed. They're going to open the blockade, whether that's through their missiles or their drones or their water drones. They have many abilities which they haven't used. Now, one might question, why haven't they attacked, any of the ships? Because a mass casualty event, the Abraham Lincoln, for example, has 5,000 people on it. If you attack a ship which results in the killing of 500 people, 1,000 soldiers, that kind of changes the mentality of the U.S., where now a lot of people in the U.S. will feel like they have been attacked, even though obviously they carried out the attacks and they started the war. But people have a short-term memory, so they will feel like they have been attacked, and therefore they're going to support the war. More people are going to support the war than before such an attack. So that's why Iran is kind of basically not going full out. But if the situation gets to a level where their civilization is threatened, where the economy is going to be destroyed, and a lot of people are going to die in Iran because of this naval blockade, then Iran will obviously just break it. But that would lead to an escalation where Trump cannot not react to that, obviously. He would have to kind of react, and that would cause a lot more casualties for Iran and the US. And even, the Financial Times has just reported that Iran is thinking about attacking US bases, not just in the Gulf countries. This is an FT. Iran eyes military targets in Europe if Donald Trump escalates war, insiders say. Two regime insiders told the FT that Iranian forces have assessed striking US assets in southern Eastern European countries, such as Bulgaria, which last month approved the use of its Besmir air base for U.S. refueling aircrafts. One of the insiders added that Cyprus, where a British air base was struck by a drone in March, was also among the potential targets for retaliation in the event of any renewed U.S. offensive. Now, you can see that, that Iran has the range of what we know. The Sajal, which is the kind of purple line over here, goes to Bulgaria and other Eastern European countries. But it's thought that Iran has the ability to strike 4,000 kilometers, which would actually be able to target Diego Garcia base, which is the US-UK, well, it's a UK base that the US is, that the UK allows the US to use. Their longest range shown over here is the Khorramshahr, which is over 2,000 kilometers, and the payload is 1,800 kgs. And you can see over here the US bases. The red is the U.S. bases, the persistent U.S. military presence, and the blue is other military sites to which the U.S. has access to. So the U.S., for example, has access to the one in Cyprus. The U.S. has a military base in Turkey. Well, more than one. In Greece, in Romania, Bulgaria. So, those countries are assisting the U.S., whether it's the refueling aircrafts. In the same way, like the Gulf countries, as we can see over here, the U.S. is still having refueling aircrafts that refuel jets that carry out attacks or, other missions. Those refueling aircrafts are still flying from Qatar, flying from the UAE, flying from Saudi Arabia, the Prince Sultan Air Base. And we can see all of that. So it's interesting to see, what an offensive stance of Iran will look like if, the U.S. escalates or if the situation gets really bad because of this naval blockade. Thank you for watching. If you did like the video, do please hit the subscribe and like the video, and we'll see you very, very soon.